welcome to the latest episode of the Real Women, Real Business podcast, ladies. So you've started your business, you've got some momentum in it, but now what? How do you go from being the founder, being a business owner, to being the CEO? Even if you are the only person in your business, it's important to really own that role of being the CEO. So to be the CEO means getting clarity on your organization's trajectory. So that's creating a bit of a roadmap, so to speak. I have a tendency to work with what I call the accidental CEOs. So this means that you knew that you were starting a business, but you maybe didn't realize that you would be running a company. Women especially tend to see a need for something in the marketplace and they develop a solution for it without really thinking about the money or the business. Their main driver and their main pursuit of this is a passion to want to help other people, to solve other people's problems. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being an accidental CEO. Lots of successful women started out this way. I'd love to just share just a couple of stories about some other accidental CEOs to give you a little bit of inspiration and help to show you what I mean by this. If you are not familiar with Sarah Blakely, Google her. This woman is an absolute rock star in the entrepreneurial world. So in case you're not familiar with who Sarah Blakely is, she is the woman who invented Spanx. That's right. And here's how she actually started her business. She was looking for her own undergarments that would provide that smooth look underneath clothing. So she began cutting off the feet of the control top pantyhose to wear under her clothing. And she saw that there was such a need in the marketplace for these products. And so she invested her entire savings into Spanx. Today, Spanx is a multi-million-dollar company offering a wide range of body shaping undergarments and clothing. But this woman didn't start out with a plan. Instead, she saw a need that she wanted to fulfill. She actually went to various department stores and pretty much just begged them to get that product onto their shelves. And then she also started going to those stores to help to point people in the direction of those products when they needed them. So, I mean, she really went all in on this, but would you say that she had a plan for any of this? No, she will be the first one to admit that she was kind of winging it the whole way. And she's fortunately got a ton of success now. And in order to achieve that success, she called that momentum in her company, and then she had to really put a strategy behind it. So I want to give you another example as well. Debbie Fields. If you are not familiar with her, you probably know her much better by the name or the brand of Mrs. Fields. So she is the founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies. And this is a great example of an accidental CEO. She started her business out with a desire just to share homemade cookies with others. And so she opened up this small cookie store in Palo Alto in California in 1977. And she got a ton of pushback from potential investors and lenders who doubted the profitability of a cookie business. Essentially, they saw her as a lovely little housewife who had an idea that they didn't think was going to fly. But her passion for baking and her belief in the quality of what she could provide to the market really drove her and fueled her to keep going. So she had a very hands-on approach to running the business. And one of the big things was that she really wanted to protect her recipes. And at the same time, she also knew that she wanted to grow. So she started opening up these other stores and sort of franchising them, but then was concerned about, well, how do I maintain the quality in each one of these stores in terms of the cookies that are being put out there? So she is the person that actually created the idea of pre-portioning ingredients at a central facility. So she was providing pre-portioned cookie dough and ingredients to the franchisees. So this was one way that she could guarantee the freshness. So the cookies were baked on site at each of these stores. Instead of being baked in a facility and shipped to them, they've got that freshness of being baked right at that store. But she could also maintain the quality control to ensure that there was a consistency in every cookie that came out. Now, Debbie Fields' journey from a home baker to a successful businesswoman and CEO really exemplifies the entrepreneurial spirit and power of pursuing one's passions. Again, she took this passion for her baking as an accidental CEO. She turned it into a multinational company. Now, here's what I will say in my experience with accidental CEOs. Very few of my clients created a business plan before launching their business. full disclosure, yes, I created a business plan before I launched my initial business. However, I wouldn't say that it was as comprehensive as it probably could have been. There's sort of actually a bit of a value to not creating your business plan from the very start. Don't get me wrong, that's not necessarily what I'm suggesting here. I do think a business plan has a ton of value, but the challenge with creating it when you're first starting out is that you really don't have all the answers. There are going to be some gaps in that plan. I still recommend creating it as a foundation, as a baseline, and then building on it as you go. So most of my clients, like I said, did not start out with a business plan. And while they may have had some ideas in their head as to where they were headed, they had nothing actually outlined. And that tends to lead to ambiguity and confusion, especially if you are building a team. If you don't know where you're taking the company, how do you expect people to come along for the ride? So when I work with my one-on-one coaching clients, what we do is we take a step back and work to really clarify the vision and create a strategic plan for moving forward. So if you're not taking the time to reflect on your business and its structure, your services, your pricing, your operations, all the things, then it's really easy to get out of focus and it's difficult to grow and scale your business. So here's the thing. If you don't know where you're going, you can't create a path to achieving your goals. And even if you do manage to gain some success, if you don't know how you got there, you won't be able to build on that. And I want you to be incredibly intentional in your business. So this is where having a well-crafted vision is going to come in. So let's think about your company's vision as a bit of a roadmap. It's your guide, it shows you your way forward. And as all these different challenges and opportunities get thrown at you, it helps to ensure that you're staying on your path. So you might take a few little breaks here and there and veer a little bit off course, but overall, you know where it is that you're trying to get to. And there might be various routes to getting there as well. So you might look at taking a couple of different routes to help you along the way. But ultimately, you know where it is that you're trying to land. So this vision is sort of like the heart of your business. It helps you to define what it is that you're all about and where you want to go. And it's not just some fancy statement. There's actually quite a bit more to it than that. It's actually utilized more as a decision-making tool. So when you know where you're headed, it's much easier to choose the right path along the way. So let's get started on building this roadmap together. I'm going to give you an exercise to do in just a moment. Here's something that might resonate with you. Sort of what I like to call an occupational hazard of being an entrepreneur is that you likely have a ton of great ideas. So perhaps you watched a webinar or saw a TikTok or read a book or just spoke with your business coach, and now you've got all these great ideas and you just can't get through all them fast enough. They're all coming at you. They're swirling around in your head. You know, I like to call it sort of that spaghetti style of planning sometimes, where it's just all jumbled up, kind of like that, you know, those Christmas lights that get all tangled up. They're kind of all tangled up in your head. So there are all these great ideas. You know that you can be successful at all of them. But the problem is when you're kind of running in circles, chasing all of them, it's really hard to stay focused. And you may feel like you're not actually moving forward, like you're not actually accomplishing anything. So what I want to do today is I want to help you to organize all of these thoughts and ideas. This is the start of a strategic plan for achieving your goals. The not so sexy way of looking at this is called crafting your vision. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to start with a brain dump. So what does that look like? Grab a piece of paper or a digital notebook if that's what you prefer. And I want you to write down everything that you think you want to do, everything that's hit your radar of like, oh, that'd be a great idea if I pursued that, whether it's now or in the future in your business. So this could be new services, new products, or other opportunities. For example, perhaps you want to land your own TV show, or maybe you want to have your kids take over the business someday, or perhaps you want to give back to your community in some meaningful way. Maybe philanthropy is something that you're super passionate about and want to work towards, but you feel like, well, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to be generous with my community if I can't even make a profit right now. Doesn't matter how feasible you think it is. So this is the whole point of this exercise, is to really just start dreaming about it. just start thinking about all the things that fuel you inside. What would feel incredible to do? And of course, the side effect to all these things will be making money, but I don't really want you to say that your goal is just to make a whole ton of money. It's not to say that we won't set milestones to these things, and there may be some sales figures or revenue numbers involved in that. But I don't necessarily want you to say, like, my goal in life is to make a buttload of money. Great, but we're going to need to dig a little bit deeper than that. So let's think in terms of the outcomes. What is it that you're looking to achieve? Do you want to introduce a new service or product? Do you want to get a brick and mortar place for your business? Do you want to invest in new equipment? Do you want to target a new demographic? Or maybe you just want to simply build on the relationships that you already have in your current demographic. And it doesn't really matter at this stage in the process of building this roadmap. It doesn't necessarily matter at this stage whether or not you know how to do any of these things. So, for example, you might want to introduce a new service, but you're like, I don't really know how to introduce that service. Okay, so maybe something else that will go on the list at some point is get the training that you need in order to offer that. Right now, just write down what it is that you want to do. We don't want to get too caught up in the details of how you're going to get there, because you might, as you go through evaluating some of these, realize that some of them don't actually fit into your ultimate goals in the end. But nonetheless, do the brain dump exercise and get these things all down on paper. So let's use an example of a hair salon. Let's say that you operate a hair salon, and perhaps some of the ideas that are floating around in your head are things like you want to take a new course on color. Maybe you've been kind of doing color the same way and you want to get into, some funky colors like maybe pink, putting that into your client's hair, and you want to ensure that you have the correct process for doing it really effectively. Maybe you want to enhance the product lines that you carry to increase your revenues. Maybe you've got your eye on entering and winning a competition of some sort. Or perhaps you've really leaned towards doing hair extensions. You've got great profit margins in that. You really enjoy doing it. And you've got a technique that makes you at the top of your field. So perhaps you want to increase your sales in that. Maybe you want to grow your staff. Perhaps you want to introduce some additional services like aesthetics. So you want to hire an esthetician, or maybe you want to become a teaching salon. Perhaps you're thinking about bringing in some sponsors so that you can do some expansions within your business. So again, see how there's just so many ideas that are swimming around. And so getting them down on paper helps you to really have a clear vision of them. We are very visual people by nature. So getting them down on paper just helps to kind of put them all into one place. And at this stage, I don't really want you to worry too much about how much detail is in these ideas. I just really want you to get them down on the page. So the next thing I want you to do is you're going to group these into some phases. So you're going to set out 3 priorities. For the purpose of this exercise, I recommend doing no more than 3 priorities. So which items are going to be tackled first, which one's second, and which one's third. And you will notice that some items will kind of naturally organize themselves. So there might be certain things where you're like, oh, well, I can't do this until these other 3 items are done. So those other 3 items need to go on maybe priority 1 and that other item on priority 2. So there will be some goals that build upon other ones. So you can only achieve them in sequential order. So do your best to organize these items based on the urgency of them, the impact that they can have on you, your business, your market, your industry, as well as the feasibility of them. So this is where you do want to spend a little bit of time sort of evaluating how quickly you can get these things done, how easy they might be to get done, and how much they make sense for the overall growth of your business. So now once you've got them organized into these 3 lovely phases, take a bit of a closer look at them and see if any items need to be shifted around now. Perhaps there are some items that you can see just naturally need to be grouped together. Or perhaps they're looking at the phases and realizing, oh, shoot, this is what happens to a lot of people. I put everything into phase 1, and it's just not realistic to tackle that many things in one shot. So we're going to spread those things out a little bit. We want to ensure that we're being realistic and setting ourselves up for success as much as possible in this phase. So shift some items around as needed. And don't worry about getting this perfect just yet. The goal of this exercise is to get everything out of your head into one place. Now, if you're finding that some of these items really don't fit into any of these three phases, you might put them onto another list. I generally recommend actually putting some timelines to these phases. So, how long will it take to complete phase one, phase two, and phase three? We're going to talk a little bit more about how to figure out what those timelines are and putting some actual actions to those goals. But for right now, give yourself maybe a little bit of a guideline as to what time you think those phases will take place. I generally recommend not looking more than 3 years out. The reason I say that is a lot of things can change in 3 years, especially when it comes to technology, industry trends. You just never know what's going to hit the world unexpectedly that could completely throw your whole business into a massive upheaval. So you want to make sure that while you're working towards long-term goals, that you have like you're kind of focusing on a lot of the short term and how that's working you towards your long-term goals, but those short-term goals should have some rewards as well. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you're finding that some of these projects are definitely going to take you more than 3 years, move those into their own list. I like to call that list a someday kind of list. So these are a great idea, but we're going to save them for someday. And getting this clarity, getting all these ideas down, organizing them in this way really helps to give you that clarity on where your business is going. And what this does is it makes it so much easier to say no to the opportunities that are not taking you closer to your goals. Did you know that women especially struggle with saying no to opportunities that come up? We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to appear difficult. We like to please people. And so we're often worried about saying no to things. But if you can objectively evaluate these opportunities as they come in, and as much as you want to say yes, if you can say, you know what, I'd love to say yes to this, but it just doesn't align with where I'm focusing my energies right now. And I think it's going to take me further away from some of these big goals that I'm working on. So I'm going to need to pass at this time. Now, there are definitely techniques to saying no. In fact, you can actually phrase it as more of a yes. So perhaps you're saying no to a particular opportunity, but saying, here's what I can do, and offer them something that either aligns with your future goals or simply takes much less resources for you so that it's not really causing as much of a disruption for you. In my experience, so let's talk a little bit about the word busy. First of all, when someone says they're busy, it's basically saying, I don't have time for anything else, including you potentially. But when people ask you, how are things, how's work, how's business? Are things busy? Yeah, things are busy. Well, busy is good, right? And you always say that response, busy is good. Is it good though? Honestly, no, it's not. The truth is that if you're busy doing all the wrong things, if you're busy doing things that are helping other people out but aren't necessarily bringing you closer to your goals, and in fact, they're distracting you from your goals, then busy could actually be causing you more harm than good. And this is what we talk about when we talk about people getting in the way of their own success. And this might be resonating with you where you're like, you know what? I said yes to a few things last week that I probably shouldn't have. By saying yes to those things, did you find yourself with less time to work on the things that you truly wanted to work on? Or maybe it's not even business related, but it took you away from time with your family, with your friends, or just time with yourself. I know we always have the best of intentions, but when we follow these opportunities that aren't really bringing us closer to our goals, it ends up just being sort of like a distraction. And sometimes we get distracted even just by opportunities that are like, well, that seems easy to say yes to because it doesn't really take much from me to do that, but it's not necessarily bringing you closer to your goals. So are you doing yourself any favors by doing that? The biggest problem with all of this, with taking these opportunities that are not necessarily aligned well with your goals and making yourself super busy, it's not so much just that it affects your bottom line, which it does, but it's also that it leads to burnout. When you're so busy doing all the things without actually stopping to focus on what's going to get you closer to your goals, you're going to find yourself drained with very little to show for it. So I want you to be able to look back in, say, 6 months, 12 months from now, and feel truly proud of what you've accomplished. But if you feel like you're busy every day, but not actually accomplishing things, I beg of you, take the time to complete this exercise that I've given you here. And don't mistake busy for being productive. If you could eliminate some of that busy work and just concentrate on high level work that moves you and your business forward, you might find, which I know you will find, that your to-do list is lighter. You have more capacity to make better informed decisions, and you will be in a better mental space as well. So how do you achieve the things that you've outlined in your vision so far? So you've got this brain dump that you've done now. Great. How do you actually turn that into action? Well, every goal that you've outlined there can be broken down into smaller steps that can all have specific actions towards achieving them. And that's going to lead you closer to your goal. So I want you to take all those ideas that you've outlined and we're going to turn them into SMART goals or SMART objectives. Now, SMART, S-M-A-R-T, is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, or some people like the word actionable for the A there, relevant, and time-bound. So in that achievable part of the goals, I want you to identify what projects or initiatives you need to take on in order to achieve it. So we're going to get into this further in the next episode. But for right now, here's some key takeaways that I hope that you will take with you from this episode. First is, if you are an accidental CEO, welcome to the club. There are lots of you out there and they are very, very successful, but it doesn't mean that you can continue on a path of no direction, no vision, and kind of floating adrift in the ocean, so to speak. So it's important to get clear on your objectives and goals to help you with making decisions about what you will and will not do. And take this with you. If you take nothing else today, remember, busy does not mean productive. So getting clarity on your vision will help you to stay on track and be busy doing the right things. Now, if there is one thing that you can use to get started right now, it's the brain dump. Brain dump your ideas, get them all out of your head, get them onto paper. Okay? I want you to take some time and do that and let me know how it goes. So listen, if what I'm saying here resonates with you, then I hope you'll tune in again next week and allow me to continue to be a part of your journey. If you want to learn more about this podcast and find some great resources that we have to offer, please check us out at aboutshaunalynn.com/podcast. So it's About Shauna Lynn, and Shauna Lynn is spelled SHAUNALYNN. So aboutshaunalynn.com/podcast. This is the Real Women, Real Business podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, everyone, have a good one.